Jesus Christ was crucified in Jerusalem, Israel, and buried in the Garden of Tomb there, right? Well, not if you believe in the local legends of a faraway village of Shingō, Aomori Prefecture, in Japan. Well, I thought there is no harm in giving them the benefit of the doubt, so wearing my best invisible Sherlock Holmes cap, I made a trip in late September 2018 to Japan and made my way to this remote village of just over 2,000 people. Does the evidence support the claim that Jesus Christ did in fact live for a period here and eventually die in Japan? Jesus Christ was last seen in the Bible as a teenager of 15 and then reappeared at 33 years old as the Messiah, so there was a missing gap of 18 years which are now known as the lost years of Jesus Christ. There are accounts in various countries and places that it is possible to piece together what could have happened during those missing years, and I will attempt to do so in a separate video. But for now, back to the story. Based on local traditions, Jesus first arrived in Japan at the age of 21 years old, became a disciple of a great master near Mount Fuji, and learned the Japanese language in Eastern culture. At 33, he returned to Judea. Because of his growing influence, the Romans became increasingly concerned. Jesus was arrested and condemned to crucifixion for heresy. In a shocking twist, his brother Herai saved him by taking his place in the cross. Jesus fled with two keepsakes, Heirai's ears and a lock of the Virgin Mary's hair. If you go to the tomb now, you can find two large crosses standing over two burial mounds. The right one is supposed to be that of Jesus Christ himself, and the left one contains these relics. His trip back to Japan takes him across Siberia, a journey of 4 years and 6,000 miles. From there, he sailed to Hachinohe, a short ox cart ride from Shingo. Exhausted, as he should rightly be, he changed his name to Toritaro Daitenku, and became a garlic farmer. He married a local woman named Mayuko and fathered 3 daughters, with the eldest marrying into the Sawaguchi family, who therefore hold a direct lineage to Jesus. In a supreme irony, Junichiro Sawaguchi, the current eldest member of the family, is in fact a Buddhist and had never once been to a church nor read a Bible. Jesus is said to have lived out his natural life ministering to the needy. He was known as a balding, long-nosed goblin in his later years. When Jesus died naturally at the age of 106, his body was left exposed on a hilltop for 4 years in keeping with the customs of the time. His bones were then bundled and buried in a grave, the same mound of earth that you see now when you pay the museum a visit, and pay 200 yen for the privilege of course. So where is the evidence for this fantastic story? The argument can be made from 3 angles: ancient written documents, the way in which the grave was miraculously found, and local customs and traditions. The main written record is the Takenouchi Documents, which depending on who and how you view it, can either be one of the oldest documents in the world, or an elaborate hoax. If you find that whatever I am saying now interests you, I would love for you to like and subscribe. I am just beginning this channel and would really appreciate it. The original manuscripts of the Takenouchi Documents were supposedly handed down from generation to generation via the head of the Takenouchi family, who will take over the chief priest position of the Kosoko Taijingu shrine in Mount Omijin in Toyama Prefecture. These manuscripts were written in a divine language by a group of ancient sages known as the Kami no Michi, or Way of the Gods, who were said to have possessed advanced spiritual and technological knowledge. Over 1,000 years ago, Takenouchi no Matori translated the supposedly divine language that the original scroll was written into Japanese and Chinese. When his descendant, Takenouchi Sukun, took over the priesthood, Sukun translated the document further to modern Japanese and started sharing information about them from 1875 onwards. The documents cover a wide range of topics, from how our civilization was initially seeded by gods to how a worldwide government system was run from Japan ruled by a benevolent demigod character. It was even claimed that Moses had received the Hebrew language, the 10 Commandments, and the Star of David directly from this divine emperor. Moses apparently spent 12 years of his life in Mount Hodatsu in the Ishikawa prefecture and died after living a ripe old age of 583 years old. His grave can be found on this mountain. Not just Moses and Jesus, but even Buddha, Confucius and Mencius also made their obligatory appearance as visitors eager to learn from Japan in the documents. Well, by now, I think I know what you are thinking. My next story about how they discovered Jesus' tomb is probably not going to help matters. In 1934, the village head of Herai, Denjiro Sasaki, hired a painter named Toya Banzan to establish a connection between Lake Toeda and the village. Toya was fascinated with the Takenouchi manuscripts. In 1935, 4 people, Takenouchi, Toya, Sasaki, and a Christian missionary who preached that the Japanese emperor was the Jewish Messiah, set out on the survey. At the Mound in Sawaguchi's land, Takenouchi dug in and discovered a scroll purported to be Christ's last will and testament, dictated as he was dying in the village. Toya also noted that Sanjiro Sawaguchi had striking blue eyes. At the front of their family home, there is also a crest that looked exactly like the Star of David. This can only mean one thing, of course: the Sawaguchi must be descendants of Jesus. Just the next day after discovering Jesus' tomb, they also found a series of what they believed to be 7 ancient pyramids predating the ones built by the Egyptians and the Mayans by tens of thousands of years. But it is just that the pyramid collapsed during a 19th century earthquake. The remaining heap of rocks, generously dubbed the Big Stone God Pyramid, Oishigami Pyramid, is just down the road from the Christ tomb. This scroll of Jesus' last will, as well as the original manuscripts of the Takenouchi documents, unfortunately were conveniently destroyed during World War II. Luckily, for us, a modern replica of the documents relating to the tomb can still be found in the museum. Skeptics believe that the whole scheme of Jesus' tomb, as well as that of Moses, is part of state Shinto, a propaganda attempt at emperor worship amidst falling support during that period. But that still does not explain why local customs and traditions seem to have Hebrew roots. For example, there are words in the local dialect such as aba or gaga for mother and aya or dada for father that are more similar to Hebrew than Japanese. The village was called Herai before it was renamed Shingō in 1955. Some believe that Herai is a variation of the Japanese word for Hebrew, which is Hebrai. The men in the village wore clothes similar to the toga-like robes worn in biblical Palestine, while women wore veils and infants were carried in woven baskets like those used in the Holy Land. Newborns were wrapped in clothes embroidered with a design resembling the Star of David and had charcoal crosses marked on their foreheads as a talisman. Could there be any other possible reason for the unusual customs in that area? A religious scholar thinks Shingō may have been settled by descendants of the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Another alternative theory is that the tombs in Shingō village contain the bodies of 16th-century Christian missionaries who came to Japan but were forced to practice their religion in secret due to a nationwide ban on Christianity. To avoid brutal persecution, torture, and even possible execution for refusing to denounce their beliefs, Christians must have hidden and survived in scattered communities for more than 200 years until Japan opened its doors to the West in 1868. The unique Christian traditions practiced in Shingō may have originated from these hidden communities, explaining why they are not practiced in the rest of the region. In 2004, the Israeli ambassador visited the tombs and dedicated a plaque, in Hebrew, to honor the ties between Shingō and the city of Jerusalem, though the embassy was quick to reassure that it was meant more as a symbol of friendship rather than an endorsement of the Jesus claims. Currently, the tomb is maintained by a nearby yogurt factory and is visited by thousands of tourists and pilgrims each year, who participate in the Springtime Christ Festival, held at the site on the first Sunday of June each year. It seems obvious that the whole thing must be a deliberate fraud, right? However, the Takenouchi documents share similarities with what I believe is true world history, especially about our origins as a created species by God/extraterrestrials. So, despite my skeptical stand, there may be something to the documents. What do you think? Feel free to comment below, and especially if you would like me to go into a longer version of the Takenouchi documents. I will also be attaching travel logistics information in the description box in case you want to visit Jesus Christ tomb in Japan too. Visiting Jesus' tomb was part 1 relating to my trip to Japan. Please click on this link for part 2, my journey to uncover the legend of a Japanese cryptid kappa.